Galactic sentient broadcast. Target, planet Earth. Begin invasion in 3, 2, 1.
Hey, well hello again. My name is Scott, this is Book Invasion. Today we're going to do a little walkie-talkie about a recent read I read, which was The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This guy was a beast. Typically I don't read fantasy books over 600 pages. This one came in just over 750. And I'd just heard so much about it that it was a great fantasy read. And I kind of dug into it and I couldn't really figure out the kind of fantasy elements about it. About, usually the kingdoms and the hierarchies of political whatchamacallits and all those kind of things. And so I couldn't really pinpoint what the big fantasy element about the book was. I heard it's a good, like a heist story. So, that one, it was intriguing, and I just kind of put it off for a while. And then I put out a little Twitter poll about which one I should read, and that one took the cake. So I dug into it. I read it listened to it on Audiobook, and it was pretty awesome. The prologue itself is broken up into different chapters and things. So I was listening to it, and then I heard like chapter 2, and I was like, wait a minute, am I still in the prologue or what? And I had to look at my track listings. So it's definitely a hefty read. There's a lot of pieces and parts to it, but it wasn't incredibly bogged down on those type of fantasy things, which I liked. It was very light fantasy, I suppose, where most of the stuff is real, people doing real things that are reasonable. And then you get a dash of the fantastical, mythical elements here and there with the alchemical globes and the elder glass towers and the crazy sharks and whatnot. So it was pretty light on the fantasy elements, which I liked. It helped me get through it a lot quicker, where I wasn't really confused about magic systems or this, that, and the other. It was just a really character kind of driven story about the gentleman bastards and the rise of Locke Lamora, which I really enjoyed. I'm glad that I read it. I'm glad I gave it a chance, because I really liked it. And I think that's one of the reasons, because it's not a typical kind of, Sanderson-y type read. A big hole down there. So what's it about? Really, it's about orphan boy Locke Lamora, who grows up on the streets. He kind of gets recruited by this the guy they call the Thief Maker, who takes orphans under his wings and mentors them, gives them a place to sleep and eat and stay, as long as they go out and do the thieving for him, bring him back some riches and so on and so forth. And that obviously leads to him being a quick study, kind of doing jobs that are a little bit bigger than he should be for his given situation. And then he goes on to not rise into power, but kind of get a reputation and get a little clan behind him of these other similar fellows, and under the wing of Father Chains. Father Chains is a pretty sweet character, and Kahlo and Galdo are pretty awesome too. And then there's Jean. I like Jean. I think the thing about this book is that it's very dense, is that it could be almost its own series in this single book itself, because there's so many plot points and so many beats that it hits, and then you think one saga comes to an end, but you're still only a third into the book, so you're thinking like, what in the world is he going to get into next? So it really keeps the pace going. It really interweaves a lot of these different stories, and it keeps you engaged the whole time, which I really liked too. Is that there's not a lot of exposition. There's not a lot of useless chapters of info dumpy about historical context. There's just kind of these missions. It's kind of like I don't know. I'd say lit RPG, but I haven't really read a lit RPG. But there's different quests, essentially, that Locke Lamora goes on. And each quest is kind of action-packed, and you figure out what kind of scheme or ruse that he's going to pull off, and if he's going to pull it off successfully or not, if he's going to get caught. And that just kind of continues throughout the book, is that he's pulling over one scheme, and while he's doing that, he has to go through a task and do another thing at the same time. So how is he going to get out of one or the other? And then the kingpins that are kind of currently in power, how is he going to swing something over on these guys? And then you get the Gray King and the Bonds Mage, which those guys are bad news. But those guys are pretty awesome. I really like the Gray King, and I really like and I really like the Bonds Mage, where Locke says, nice bird, asshole. That's some good stuff. I like the snarkiness and kind of the overconfidence of your protagonist, which obviously if you didn't have that, the book would be a lot less funny and interesting. But I like the writing style, and I like that it didn't spend a lot of time on those other info dumpy historical such and such, that it just kind of kept the beat. Here's Locke, here's the story. We're going to keep the story focused on him. We're not really going to divulge much, except for the other main characters, like Jean and stuff, when they go off to the separate missions and places that Father James sends them to. But all that stuff kind of comes into play, so there are parts where they flash back into different timelines, but those flashbacks all play into the story that you're reading at the time, so it all works pretty good. So I thought it was a really great read. I thought if you're, I'm more of a sci-fi reader, horror kind of reader. I don't read a lot of fantasy, but I think this book was kind of a perfect, fantasy read, I guess, for me, which I don't know how deep of a fantasy it is because again, it didn't have a lot of magical pieces, but it was really good. I think it's a good thing if you're weary about starting heavy 750 page fantasy series because you might get bored and such, then pick up the Lies of Locke Lamora, because I think it doesn't feel like one of those things. It feels kind of light and more action-packed than it is exposition. So those are my initial thoughts on the Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. It's pretty good. I hope everyone's again staying safe, shelter in place. Obviously I'm out in the deserty wilderness scrubbing it up. I haven't shaved for a while. Got my shirt on I've been wearing for the past 2 days. No, I'm just kidding. But whatever. So, yeah, check out Lies of Locke Lamora. I would recommend it for those who like kind of action heist stories. Kind of like a bigger version of, Ocean's 11 or The Italian Job or those kind of things. I haven't read a lot of other type of heist books. Maybe I have. Oh, but if you like, let's give a recommendation. If you like Lies of Locke Lamora, and something more like Good Omens, then you should read The Everything Box by Richard Kadrey. The Everything Box. It's kind of like that book reminded me a lot of like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels meets Good Omens. If you have not heard of The Everything Box, go check it out. There's 2 books in that series. They're called like the Another Coop Heist, where the main character's name is Cooper, and he's on a heist to take this box that was left by an angel, and we all know that story. So that's my recommendation to you. Since everyone else in the world has probably already read Lies of Locke Lamora, check out The Everything Box. That's kind of just a off-the-cuff recommendation for you. But thanks for watching, everybody. It's a beautiful 80 degrees out here in Arizona. I hope you're doing well wherever you are. Get out, get some fresh air, but wear a mask if you have to, because that's always fashionable. All right, guys. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.